The finance bill passes as it is without any alterations to that particular clause. That will mean your bank can be accessed at any time.
Wow. So do you think 2025 there's a difference? What has been factored in from the last 2024 finance bill rejection?
And they say that so long as you have a running registered business, you should be onboarded on eating.
Remember, you already were supposed to pay tax on your land.
Yeah.
Are you supposed to still pay again on things that are on your shamba? I saw somewhere you mentioned that hiring your spouse can help you reduce your taxes. Tell us how.
As a woman, it's not easy. You're balancing motherhood, you're balancing building a business, dealing with clients. The major part of this thing, it's God.
Welcome to the podcast where we bring you exceptional journeys of women who uplift, inspire, and redefine greatness. My guest today is a tax expert, a distinguished CPA, but I'll let her introduce herself. And before we get to that, I'd just like to thank each and every one of you. 2,000 subscribers in 1 month. I mean, you guys are the real MVPs. So thank you so much for following, subscribing, and just relating to my content. So today we are talking about tax, which is relatively a very complex subject, even for us financiers. And we are here to demystify it as much as possible. So this episode, I hope my father will be proud of me and all the school fees he spent all through the years through going through finance and CPA. So Mr. Mido, this one is for you. All right, so without further ado, let me introduce my guest, Fiona Witaba.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Joy. What a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, thank you for honoring my invite to come to my podcast. I know you're doing so much around tax, but just introduce yourself for our guests who are watching.
Okay. My name is Fiona Witaba. I am a CPA, that's a certified public accountant. I'm also a tax expert, and I help businesses grow through enabling them to understand what their business is saying in terms of data. And that boils down to the one thing that you can't escape, which is taxes. So that's what I love to do. I eat, sleep, and dream taxes. Weird as it sounds. And I'm also a mother and a wife, and I am just a lover of life.
I love it. We'll get to that in the course of this conversation. So as you guys can see, I have a book today. I had to do research because this is not a freestyling kind of thing. So we want to bring it to you in the simplest way possible. So hata kama ni kuongea Kiswahili, leo tutaongea Kiswahili so that it gets to that mwananchi. All right. So today we'll cover quite a scope of it, and I hope we don't lose track of time because there's so much to speak on, especially around finance bill, which is a hot topic currently in our country.
For sure.
And we do have also taxes. So many people don't know which taxes they're supposed to be paying, at what point, where. So that's what we're here to do. Let's start with the finance bill. I know so many Kenyans have been waiting for this. So we had a lot around Finance Bill 2024 where people were rejecting the finance bill, and for obvious reasons, because so many people feel like the taxes are punitive. Maybe they don't know where our taxes are going. Is the government really using our taxes to invest? So do you think 2025 there's a difference? What has been factored in from the last 2024 finance bill rejection?
100%. For 2024, it was very abrasive and forceful, and Kenyans put their voice on it and they rejected it, which was a good thing because I feel like that pushback has allowed the Finance Bill 2025 to be more informed as to what the citizens are looking for. And looking at this Finance Bill, which was released just 2 days ago to the public, when they tabled it in Parliament on the 30th of April, 2025, I realized that the bill is more focused on trying to seal the loopholes and enhance the tax administration practices that are there, rather than introducing new tax laws that have a large base and could rub the public in the wrong way.
Correct. I remember for Finance Bill 2024, there was a point where they wanted to tax the pads, the diapers. How does it look like for 2025? I know we've not seen it yet, but do you have insights to it?
I do, because it's been released to the public. I actually was going through it just yesterday. And you can relax. The pads are safe and the diapers are safe.
We thank God.
Yes. They've also been very lenient, and they've put in some incentives in there for businesses and also for employees. So it's really looking good. Okay. There's only one part that I'm worried about. I don't know, should I touch on it right now?
Yes, please.
Okay, so the one part that for me, personally, I feel like will not have a good reception is the one where KRA has proposed within the bill to have the right to access your bank details and your personal details without a court order. So that basically means that Kenya Revenue Authority can approach your bank, whether it's KCB, Equity, DTB, whichever bank you're banking with, and tell them, I want to access Joy Mido's accounts so that I can see whether she's tax compliant. And initially you'd need a court order for that, but as of now, according to what is being tabled in the bill, they want to bypass that. And that goes contrary to the Data Protection Act, which has enhanced protection of your personal information. So that for me, I feel like will ruffle some feathers because there's all...
It's already ruffling my feathers.
Even as you're sitting here. So for me, I feel like will rub people off the worst way.
There was a tax on internet, especially the Gen Zs who are usually actively on the internet. There was an introduction of a tax.
So the tax that has been introduced or is being proposed to be introduced in this current finance bill is a tax on online TV and online radio streaming. So things like Netflix, Spotify, or if you stream on YouTube Premium, those areas were initially not taxed. But with the new proposal, they're going to obtain a VAT charge of 16%. Okay. Because initially you just pay the digital tax, or rather the significant economic presence tax. But right now they're imposing a 16% tax, which now means that for the subscribers, you'll end up paying more because that's going to be inculcated into the price that you are charged by the provider. Yes.
Do you think that will chase away so many providers from Kenya?
It could, but the digital space in Kenya is very mature. The general public is mostly composed of the young, so they're very tech savvy, and I don't think a tax addition will reduce their consumption of these digital products. However, they will just not be happy because the economy as it is already struggling, and the unemployment rate is skyrocketing. Jobs are letting people go every now and then. Just last week, 27 people were let go from
Royal Media.
And so you see, all those items lead up to the fact that will still rub people off the wrong way. But because it's a tech-enabled economy, people still depend on those sites to earn their living. So many people will still continue, though they'll be
consuming it.
Yeah, they'll still continue, though they'll be disgruntled. Yes.
Let's talk about landowners, freehold and leasehold land. There are allegations that they will incur 10% on the value of the land.
So land initially was just being taxed at the point of transfer of ownership. So you'd pay the capital gains tax of 15% when you're changing ownership from one person to another. But there was a proposal to tax 10% per year on every land on land that is held. However, you see, we are still in the period where people are giving their opinions and their comments. So these bills have not been passed into law.
I think so many people struggle with understanding the budgeting process and how it happens. So I know at this point where we need to do the public participation. So for someone who's watching and just wondering, how does this happen? I think there is, and you correct me if I'm wrong on this, a 9 months period from 30th of August last year, where they start this whole process, where they formulate all these things at the county level, at the national level, and they come up now with budget estimates. So when it gets to 30th of April, it's tabled to the National Assembly, which you guys may have seen already. And once it's given a green light by the National Assembly, so is that where public comes in?
So at the National Assembly is when now they decide this is our budget and we are allocating the amount of money to X, Y, and Z. So how are we going to get this money to allocate? So then now that boils down, do we have loans from IMF? Do we have a tax base that can satisfy our requirements for the budget. And then now that comes to the tax reforms, and that's how bills are proposed, and we end up with the public participation, which allows for a period until June when the bill is passed. Yes.
So what period do people have from now till June? Is it end of June, mid-June to participate?
From towards the end of June 2025.
So how do people participate?
There's bodies that are relevant. Like for me as an accountant, I can put in my remarks through ISPAC. There's the regulatory body under which, or the unions under which people are members of, they can forward their comments and their feelings, consolidate that, and have a representative present them when they are discussing the findings. Yeah.
Okay. So how do you how does the government sensitize people to participate? Because so many people feel unheard during these taxes, and I think that's what led to guys going to the streets last year.
Yeah.
So imagining that the government needs to do more to avoid the same situation happening.
You're right. The government definitely needs to do more, because most of the people who are affected, the Kenyan population, the demographic is mostly young, 35 years and below. So that particular group does not have a specific platform to channel what they think about the finance bill. So that's how they end up in the social media platforms like X, like TikTok, Facebook, and it creates sort of like an inciting of the public, and that can boil over into anger that is not necessary. So the government needs to do better to be able to make the regular youth or Gen Z or whichever demographic the person belongs to feel like this is a platform where I can air my views. So they need to spread word out through the news channels, through the influencers who are in these spaces, so that the regular mwananchi is able to voice their opinion.
So me as a regular mwananchi, I go to X and rant and everything. Is it hard? Do they care for that?
From 2024, clearly it is hard. But the bigger your voice, the more the impact. That's why even if you looked at last year, when you were looking at the 2024 finance bill, the public was calling upon celebrities and influencers and people who have authority to speak on these things. Because when you have a platform, your voice is bigger than someone who doesn't have a platform.
That's true.
Kenyans have become very good at making their voice heard, especially for matters of national importance like taxes. And it comes from, like, even when you're a child and you fall down and you hurt your knee, next time when you're playing, you'll be very careful not to fall down and hurt yourself. So Kenyans have been hurt before. So right now it's a volatile environment, and it's been what do you call it? It's been made worse by that BBC documentary that came out recently. Right on time for when the finance bill is being released, which I don't know if it was intentional, but it did. So it's a very sore wound that I think the government should handle very carefully.
Speaking of the documentary, I know if you've not watched it, just go to BBC Africa and just check it out. It really shows a lot that happened, especially last year. And I really hope this government has taken that into account.
The Finance Bill 2025, from my opinion, has more good than bad.
Correct.
Which is refreshing. And I think the public will appreciate that. But at the same time, more still needs to be done to address other issues and other challenges that are still pending, especially amongst the youth. Number one being unemployment, right?
Yeah, I like that. There's some positives I've also seen on it. I don't know, maybe have you heard about retirees will be tax exempt?
Initially the retirees used to pay not hefty but some level of taxation on their lump sum pension payments, but right now that has been is being proposed to be completely abolished, and that will increase their take-home income when they are retiring, as well as something else you've mentioned,
lessening the tax disputes.
Exactly. So the period of getting, if you've been in a dispute and you're supposed to be given a refund, so the periods have been lengthened so that the case is not closed before proper verification is done, from 90 days to 120 days, which is also a good move that supports the mwananchi. Incentives have been placed, especially in the tech and finance industry. So if you have qualified and you can register and be a member of the Nairobi International Financial Center, you'll get to pay 15% corporate taxes compared to 30% corporate taxes.
Oh,
which
what
is
did you say it's called? National?
Nairobi International Financial Center.
Okay.
So if you're a member there, then your company can pay 15% corporate taxes instead of
30%.
that 30%, which is a huge slash.
Yeah, that's a
if
huge difference.
If you appropriate that into millions, it really is significant.
Quite.
And those are incentives to help these industries to grow.
Right. I like that. I hope we get more of that.
Yeah.
Let's touch on green levy tax, the sugar tax, and the plastics tax. So many things come in plastics.
Yeah.
And introduction of that or increase of the tax for that would mean so many things would go up. So for example, you're buying that bottle of soda, you're already paying for VAT on it. Then you also have to pay that plastic tax. How is that in this Finance Bill 2025?
In the 2025 Finance Bill, importation, there's an import levy, excise of 25% that has been added onto flat plastic. Flat plastic is things like fiber, rods, bare plastic, like when you import it as a raw material to use it. I don't know the words that the technical people in those industries use, but it's flat plastic before it's altered in any way. So that, of course, means that it's going to be more expensive for the manufacturer to work with the plastic. So, of course, what will happen? That cost is transferred to the regular mwananchi who's buying the plastic bar, the snacks and the canned material and the bottled material. So that will cause a ripple effect in the economy and increase the prices of some of these everyday commodities. But on the flip side, there's also a slash on the importing levy for steel.
Okay.
So steel has been taxed at 17.5%, but that has been reduced to 5%.
Oh, that's fantastic, considering it's a widely used commodity.
Exactly. So the construction industry, the manufacturer who uses steel and cast iron is going to have an easier time because it's going to be cheaper for them. So also construction cost is going to get the impact, which is going to mean that prices are going to go lower. So you see that in the finance bill, there's a play-off where some industries are being encouraged, some are being discouraged. So it just depends on where you lie within.
There's a mention about employers paying their tax relief directly when calculating the pay. This is a shift from previously. How will that impact the employers?
So for the employees, first of all, they used to run into problems because some employers, not all, but some employers will not institute the reliefs, the tax reliefs and the exemptions that are associated with some of these deductions in your payslip, like the insurance. If you have mortgage, there's a mortgage relief. If you have insurance, there's an insurance relief. NHIF is supposed to have its own relief, NSSF. So that led to when the taxpayer when 30th of June comes and the taxpayer is declaring their returns as an employee, then they find that they have a refund that they're supposed to claim from the government. And the refund process as it stands is not really clear, and it's not even assured because it's a problem with Treasury. Treasury is the one that disburses the funds so that KRA can make the refunds to the taxpayers. And there has been a push and pull there for some time. Refunds have not been coming through as they're supposed to. So, and that all that refund and push and pull has been caused by the employer not putting in the reliefs that are supposed to be earned by the taxpayer who's an employee. But now the finance bill is proposing that as a matter of law, you as the employer, it's not if we are not suggesting, it is the law that you must. If someone is getting deducted NHIF, there's a relief attached to that. If someone is getting deducted insurance, there's a relief attached to that. Though there are some of those deductions that don't have reliefs as at now. But for the ones that have reliefs as per the law, it is a must for them for also the taxpayer to feel the relief from reducing some of those deductions. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a very good breakdown, a very detailed one at that. Speaking on the payee bit of it, there were some discussions that the payee maximum limit may go from 35% to about 37%. Then also for the least taxpayers from 10% to about 25%.
Okay.
Is that something that is already included?
No.
In the bill? Okay.
So that is not included. What's included is that for those employees who get per diem, first of all, let me just make it clear. Employment taxes employment income taxes have not been touched.
Okay.
And in the negative, no, they've not. The tax bracket for employment income, of course, on a sliding scale is still 10% to 35% for employees.
Okay.
The only change that I have seen, or rather a big change that I have seen, is that for the fringe benefits. Fringe benefits is when your employer gives you like a company car or a free company housing, or you get a cheaper loan rate than the market rate for the loans the employer gives you. So those are fringe benefits. And initially they were being taxed at 9%. But right now the bill is proposing to triple that and make that 30% so that it's in line with the corporate tax. So that is the change that I am seeing, as well as for the employees who get per diem. So per diem is that extra money you're given when you go to do a project, maybe out of town, out of the country. So initially, it was untaxed for up to 2,000 per day. So if you get 5,000 per day in your per diem, only 3,000 is taxed. 2,000 is not taxed.
Okay.
But now they've increased that threshold from 2,000 to 10,000.
Oh.
So if you get the same 5,000 per diem, the entire 5,000 is not taxed because it's below 10,000. If you get 11,000 per day per diem, 10,000 is not taxed. Only 1,000 shillings per day is taxed. And I think that will benefit more the senior employees who get a higher level of per diem. Yeah,
that's a really good one. Yeah,
for the senior employees
especially. All right, farmers.
Yes.
There was a proposal of 5% tax on your products, agricultural products, tea leaves, coffee, maize. So remember you already were supposed to pay tax on your land.
Yeah.
Are you supposed to still pay again on things that are on your shamba? How does that go?
So there are those, when you're in the agricultural sector, there's a lot of VAT exemption, zero-rated VAT products. So when in the finance bill, the reforms around the whatever is zero-rated and whatever is tax exempt, some of those items have been moved around. And amongst them is things like animal feeds and sugarcane and pharmaceutical materials. For these items, you'll find that they were initially zero-rated for VAT, which basically means that you don't charge VAT when you're selling, but when you're buying, there could be a place you're paying VAT, so you can go back and claim back that input VAT, which reduces your cost. But right now, they've been moved to VAT exempt, which means that now those farmers cannot claim back that input VAT. So that will mean that for their produce, like the sugarcane, it's going to be a little bit more costly now to produce sugarcane. Because initially you had that cushioning of the VAT input claims, but now that is not there anymore as per the proposal of the Finance Bill 2025.
Right.
So that will trickle down to, of course, the cost of the sugarcane, and the sugar itself.
As well.
Yes.
Right.
And sugar is a primary household good commodity. And so that will touch everyone.
That will affect everyone. Yeah. Okay. I don't know. Mazingira tax, eco-levy, diapers and sanitary pads. You've told us there's nothing being touched on that.
There's nothing.
That is very sensitive.
I know. Especially for us women, mothers. Yeah.
Mothers.
And even fathers, because they're the ones who are also footing those diaper bills.
Exactly. So relax. That one is sorted.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's a very good breakdown on the finance bill. Where can guys actually go and read on the finance bill? We've just touched actually on just a couple of them, not everything. I know it's a big document.
Yeah.
So where can guys get it?
You can download it on Kenya Law website.
Okay.
Nairobi Law. This time around, it's readily accessible on most of the platforms that write about business news. But on the Kenya Law platform, it's definitely there. Yes.
I saw somewhere that even public participation, you can get this information from the newspapers.
I didn't hear of that. Really? Okay.
So maybe once we
That
see
would be
something like
good.
that, so that we can spread the awareness as much as possible for
Yeah.
to participate.
But I'm sure this time around they will convert all this information even into vernacular and spread it up to the mashinani interior.
Vile
inafaa. Yeah.
Which is good because I've also seen the BBC documentaries being translated into different languages.
That was interesting.
Mtu ako mashinani, they also understand what is happening.
Yeah.
Not sounding so complex.
I'm telling you, 2025 and beyond.
Yes,
Times
people are woke.
changing.
Watu wameamka. Yeah, and people really need to account for their finances. We can't just be billed more and more taxes, yet we can't see where our tax is going. And that's one thing with Kenyans. I don't think Kenyans have a problem with paying taxes.
No, they don't.
The problem is we are not seeing the fruits of our
What does
taxes.
it translate to?
Exactly.
That is the problem.
Exactly.
Because if we get good infrastructure, good healthcare, affordable, the school systems are reliable, then I don't think anyone would have a problem paying taxes because you'd feel the effects in your own home, in your own self. But right now, that push and pull normally just comes around because of all the corruption and all the unexplained embezzled funds.
Exactly. Yeah, and we're seeing fuel for MPs, or is it MCAs, is being increased. There is which renovation happening where?
Exactly.
I don't want to
A lot of annoying, a lot of annoying things.
Very annoying things. Yeah. There's so much to be done, especially around health sector. Doctors have been striking so much. Hospitals also have a lot of debts with the government. So if this money could be properly allocated in the right sectors, in the right industry, education is also part of it. I think we can move forward.
Definitely.
So for fiscal year 2025-2026, how much has been allocated for the budget?
So initially it was 4.3 trillion, but then they did some slashes here and there, so it came to 4.26 trillion. But things may still change. It may still be adjusted depending on how and when the finance bill is passed, 2025.
So are we able to know what is going to education, what is going to healthcare?
Yeah, it's all really broken down in the budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. All right. I will not bore you guys with a lot of finance bill stuff. Go read it. Check it out. You said Kenya Law?
Yeah.
Kenya Law. Check Kenya Law. Just check online. I mean, these days information is everywhere. I'm sure even when you go on X, utaipata.
Well, someone will have uploaded. People will have uploaded it.
Yes. And in the power of that, we have Notebook LLM, an AI tool, which summarizes everything for you. So you can just input that document and it summarizes it in audio.
Yeah, it converts from text to podcast.
Exactly. And you can listen to it as a podcast when you're driving. Yeah. So you guys, there's no reason not to know what's happening in your country.
100%.
We are the change that we desire. So let's go to mwananchi and biashara. This is where,
the road meets the rubber.
The taxes, let's just start with it. So small businesses, let's talk to that small businesswoman, man who is watching this. A salon, a butchery, a restaurant. Are you supposed to also be paying all this housing levy things, all this SHA? What are those exemptions for that mwanabiashara?
First of all, the mwanabiashara needs to know that they only pay taxes on profits. So if your business makes a loss that year, the law does not require you to pay a tax on a loss.
Okay.
But all that, having considered that there's a tax called turnover tax, which is levied on sales, not profit. So if you're under the turnover tax regime, which is something that you opt to be in voluntarily, whether you make a profit or a loss, you'll still pay taxes because the taxes are levied on your sales.
So take us back. You opt to be under turnover tax.
Yes.
How?
You opt to be under it. So initially, when you form a company, the default tax that you're given is income tax company, ITC. But then if you sit down and look at your financials and you realize that if I compare 1.5% tax on sales compared to 30% tax on profit, the 1.5 tax on sales is cheaper for me, then you can opt to register and change your status from income tax company to turnover tax.
Okay.
But then there's a threshold there where your business needs to be making between 1 million and 50 million over 12 months. So it's strictly designed for small businesses.
Okay.
Because if your business makes above 50 million in a year, you're no longer considered a small business.
Okay.
Yes.
So 1 million, is that revenue or is that inclusive?
Sales. So turnover is just revenue, just sales before you deduct any rent, expenses, cost of goods. So just sales as it is. Yes.
So how do you pay yourself as a business person? You know, we advise people to pay themselves so that you're not eating into your business. So how do you pay yourself, ensuring you're still compliant with carry?
So business people can pay themselves because business people are the directors in their company. So they can either choose two methods. Either you pay yourself a director's salary or you pay yourself dividends.
Okay.
So if you pay yourself a director's salary, then you still have to pay those statutory deductions like pay as you earn, NSSF, SHIF, AHL, NITA. So all those deductions apply. But if you decide to go, and remember, pay as you earn is between 10% and 35%, even for you as a director.
Okay.
But now when you decide to pay yourself dividends are declared annually or biannually. So depending on the choice that you make, for dividends, there's of course a process to it. You have to declare the dividend and say it's this amount per share. So if you're the only shareholder, then you'll earn all the dividends. But if you're several shareholders, then all the other shareholders have to sign on it and agree that this is what we are paying ourselves. But remember, it's only annually or biannually at a certain amount per share. So that's how a director or a business owner can pay themselves as per the law. Or you can do both. You can choose to pay yourself a small salary and then you declare dividends as well.
Okay.
Only that dividends are taxed at 5%. And that is a final tax, withholding tax.
So that is annually or biannually,
Yes.
as you said.
Yes.
Okay, that's a good one. What if my business has been dormant for a long time? I opened this business in 2021, but life happened. So I joined employment and I've not been transacting with this business. So am I supposed to pay taxes still on this business?
Is the business still running? In your
I'm
example,
not making money.
You're not making money.
Yes.
So it's not running. So if it's not running, it's dormant. For dormant businesses, you're still supposed to file nil returns.
Okay.
If you don't file nil returns, you'll still incur a penalty of 10,000 for every year that you've not filed.
Wow.
If you're an individual and you are operating as a sole proprietor and then you stopped and went to do, maybe you are not employed, you're still supposed to file nil returns. If you don't, you'll incur a penalty of 2,000 for every year that remains unfiled. But the good thing is, right now there's an amnesty.
So is this amnesty for individuals and businesses?
Yes.
Okay.
Everyone.
All right.
So long as you have an unpaid principal tax, if you clear that tax before 30th of June, all your penalties and fines and interests, they'll be forgiven.
So they can't forgive the principal?
The principal remains unforgiven.
Yeah.
I mean, Kaisari must take whatever belongs to him.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay, so
you're asking for yourself.
Yes, I almost for myself. Wait.
Okay.
So the penalties and the interest are what are you're given
forgiven and the fines.
For.
Yes.
So what happens when you have a tax dispute with carry and you've not been filing, as you said? So what is the process of getting to know all this? I know sometimes carry sends you emails.
Yeah.
But how can you know before 30th of June that this is what I'm owing carry?
It's very easy. When you log into if you've not received emails, if you log into your iTax, on the menu, there's the section for payment registration. If you go to payment registration and click on it, you'll be able to see all the liabilities under each tax that you still have pending because you're required to pay for that. So the system is still standing by waiting for you to register and pay for those payments that are there. So that's the fastest way for any mwananchi. Even right now, in 5 minutes, 2 minutes, you can check and see if you have any pending payments.
So you just log into iTax.
Just log into your iTax and go to on the menu tab where it says payment registration, just select that and select the tax you want to check under if you're registered for several taxes. Yeah.
And how quick is Carrie in terms of just solving all these disputes before 30th? Because I know so many people are rushing now. So how is the response fast? Do you have to go to Times Tower? I know people just think of Carrie, then they think Times Tower.
Archaic. So old. They have so many other branches. They have west of Nairobi, east of Nairobi, north of Nairobi. So it depends on where your tax station is.
Okay.
But for Carrie, they're reachable even on their call center number. Right. So if your issue is really pressing, there's also a USSD code that if you Google it, you'll see what it is and you can reach out to them. But if your issue is really serious, most business people don't like going to Carrie. They feel like they're reporting themselves.
That's true.
So the more you shun away from going there because you feel like you'll get yourself into
more problems. Yeah.
Because they were just silent. Why am I?
You're going to look for it.
Whatever you're looking for, kitakuramba and all that. But you see, prevention is better than cure.
That's true.
By the time they're sending you a notice or a demand letter, then it's probably too late for you. But if you go early, everyone has an account manager at Carrie. And your account manager is situated at your tax station.
Okay.
And your tax station is indicated on your KRA PIN certificate. If you just print it, one of those details indicates where your tax station is, whether it's west of Nairobi, north of Nairobi, or whatnot. If you're in other counties other than Nairobi, it's indicated right there. So the best thing is if you have any disputes,
go to your tax station.
Go to your tax station. If a call is not sufficient, go to your tax station or email your tax station and have your account manager sort you out. That's what I've seen to be working with many of my clients.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm working from home. How will Carrie know?
How will they know?
How will they know? So, how will they know?
Okay. How will they know what exactly?
Yeah, maybe I'm running my business from my house. And I don't need to get all that license, and also the digital tax. No one knows. There's no trace of what exactly you're doing. But you're doing some consultation business online and getting paid kwa M-Pesa uko.
Okay, in your personal M-Pesa.
Yes, exactly.
So there's this one thing, and it's also part of the proposals in the Finance Bill 2025, and I've talked about it. KRA wants to have the right to access your bank details. They already conquered Paybill and Till.
Oh, they did?
They did last year around October, because remember, every payment to your Paybill or your Till number when you're in business is considered to be an ETR. And if you use the Safaricom app, after you've paid someone on Till, you can see there's a button down there, there's a tab there that says download ETR. So that's actually considered an ETR. What's an ETR? It's an electronically transmitted receipt in real time. Meaning the moment you've received it on your pay bill, KRA has received it on their side.
Wow.
So you can be seated in your beautiful, cozy little apartment, doing your own business.
Yes.
But if you have Till or pay bill already, you just know because your pay bill or your Till is registered under your name, which is linked to your ID number. Your ID number is linked to your KRA PIN.
Oh, yes.
And that's it. All your tax records are in the open.
Wow.
And that was effective October 2024. I'm so amazed at how many people do not know this.
Yeah.
Which is part of why I create all this content and I put it out there to educate the public. Because people get caught because of just lack of knowledge.
Lack of knowledge. That is true.
The other one that they're now pursuing is now that one for the banking system. Yes. Now, if they access that, if the finance bill passes as it is without any alterations to that particular clause, that will mean your bank can be accessed at any time.
Wow.
Data protection, out the window. Yes.
Hey guys, we need to dispute that. I don't think I'm okay with that.
We're not inciting anyone.
We're not inciting anyone. Personally, you can imagine data protection. It's a lot of data, especially a lot of transactions that are going in your bank.
Personal, confidential transactions. Yes.
And that needs to be upheld.
There are people who feel like this means nothing because they have nothing much to lose. But if you are someone who really has a lot in that area.
Exactly.
There's a level of privacy that every human being is entitled to.
That's true.
And your government should be at the forefront of ensuring you feel safe, your privacy is secured. So this is a threat to that.
So I'm still doing that business of mine, but I'm paying cash. I'm being paid by cash. And narudisha balance na cash. Can they track that?
Cash is not trailable. Cash is not trailable, and it's going to be a little hard for them to track that unless you're involved with suppliers. So let's say you sell makeup. Let's take that as an example. Where you're buying that makeup, you're purchasing it from a supplier. And for them, they're selling it to you in the open, like on the grid. And they may even ask you for your details. Details of their buyer being you. So on their side, if they declare using your PIN that they sold to you,
wow.
But you on your side, you'll think you're very clever and you're there with your cash transaction. You have a wad of cash under your drawer. You're still trailable.
Right.
Yes. From the third party. The carry systems use third party authentication features. So they can use person X to trail your relationship with your taxes. Yes.
So you mentioned ATMs. ATMs, originally there was some kind of relief for people below, businesses that earn below, I think 5 million was it?
Yeah, yes.
I had some discussions of reintroducing for just all businesses and all traders. Do you think that is going to go into effect this year?
Actually, it already is and already has been, because when ATMs was initially introduced, they wanted it to be something that is a compliance need for businesses that are registered on VAT. And for such businesses, those are businesses that have annual sales of 5 million and above. So anyone below 5 million was not required to onboard on eTeams. But later on, they thought about it and they made some changes. And they say that so long as you have a running registered business or business name, you should be onboarded on eTeams. They made it so simple that they inculcated it into your e-citizen.
Right.
E-citizen, every Kenyan has an e-citizen. So long as you have an ID number, you have an e-citizen account. When your children have birth certificates, their e-citizen portfolio begins to form.
Okay.
So it's something that every Kenyan has. So if that itself is already connected to eTeams, then every business should have been onboarded on eTeams by now. And they gave deadlines last year.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. So on eCitizen, you have a place where you go and generate your eTeams invoices.
Yes.
Okay.
It's there. The same way you go and you renew your driving license is the same way you can go to the KRA module under your eCitizen and generate your eTeams receipts.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. So I've had a lot of complaints about this system is hanging, it's not working. So people say they take so much time to generate invoices, which is costing you your business, and your payments are also being delayed because no supplier will pay you without that, invoice. So how is that being sorted out, at least to be more efficient?
Well, initially every new system normally has teething problems.
Right.
And especially one that is grand at a national level, that grand. So they have tried to, I've seen them trying to make improvements. Every now and then they update us on all the improvements they've made on eTeams. And by it has become better. But if your operations are extremely sensitive, then you can still connect your ERP system. If your business is that busy, I always advocate for having your own ERP system that has an API link.
What's ERP?
To eTeams. An ERP is an enabled system that puts all your transactions in one place.
Oh, okay.
So you make your sale on there, you put out your purchase invoices on there. So everything is in one place.
Right.
But it's more so for the busier businesses. For those that have a high number of transactions. Yeah.
So what happens when I'm generating, the system is hanging, I keep generating. So I'm generating an invoice of maybe 200,000, see?
Yeah.
I've done it 3 times now. It's still not generating. Then finally it generates. Then at some point, Kerry comes back to me and asks me, you generated 3 invoices.
So instead of 200,000, you generated 600,000.
Okay. What do you do at that point?
So you pass a credit note.
Okay.
A credit note is an enablement within eTeams and every other ERP system that enables you to reverse a certain amount of money. And it's all there on the eTeams platform. Yeah, which is something that I also train business people on how to use. KRA also does their own trainings on their own platforms. So it's not supposed to be something that gives anyone headache. Yeah.
All right. What if I'm operating a business in different countries? So I'm here, I'm in Tanzania, maybe Nigeria or something like that. How do I comply with KRA for all my businesses? Does it mean because I'm a resident here in Kenya, the business that I'm doing uko Nigeria, I still need to pay tax for it here?
Okay. That's a good question. And more so because with the digital economy really growing, many people are in that setup.
Right.
And the thing is, if you're a tax resident of Kenya, meaning you are located in Kenya, and you've spent over 218 days over the past 2 years in Kenya. Therefore, that means that you are obligated to pay taxes on all your income. Remember, there's your bank that tells us how much you've earned.
Yeah.
And if you have connections with your M-Pesa or your mobile banking, those are trailable platforms whereby we can see that you're making some money somehow. Although I've seen some clever people who someone will have an offshore account, a dollar account offshore, and they'll earn money from their abroad activities.
Yes.
And they'll put all their money in their offshore account. So let's say they're earning about 3 million equivalent Kenyan shillings per month. So they only channel 300,000 into their Kenyan
bank account,
right? USD bank account, 300,000 Kenyan shillings equivalent. So that they only then pay taxes on that 300,000. Exactly. And so those are the loopholes that are available that people use sometimes. But as a tax resident of Kenya, the law requires you to declare honestly. Keyword. Honestly. All your taxes, right? All your income.
Yeah.
And expenses.
True. I saw somewhere you mentioned that hiring your spouse can help you reduce your taxes. Tell us how.
Now, so most of the people who run businesses run them with their significant other.
That's true.
Because your business starts small and then you realize, wow, this thing is actually working. So why don't we do it together? And then you begin to do it together. But you realize that this person is not earning an income. You are just pinching and you don't have an orderly way of paying one another or creating order within your payroll.
Right.
So how about you put this spouse on your payroll and give them a regular salary so that it is structured, and in as much as they will get all those deductions, they'll get deducted pay as you earn, the NSSF, the SHIF, AHL, but at least they will have a structured way of paying. And on your side as a company, you win too, because that expense of your spouse is a deductible expense. So it reduces your taxes in the end. So it's a win-win situation, and it creates order and gives you that peace of mind, which is priceless.
Let's touch on filing returns.
Yes.
I know you're supposed to file your returns every year before the 30th of June.
Yes.
So as an employee, so many people are still going to the cyber.
Yeah.
In
2025.
I mean, how can they make that process easier? Is there education on it? Is there like step by step where someone can see so that you're filing your tax returns correctly and not depending on someone to do it for you?
There was a time in 2020, 2021 whereby KRA tried something with employee taxes, and they said it's not a must for employees to file their returns once they've been deducted pay as you earn the whole year. Since the employer has already been filing and paying,
exactly,
why are you going through the entire process of filing again? But then they tested it out for some time. Not 2021. I think it was 2010. Sorry, I'm not sure of the year, but there's a time they tried this. So they allowed the employers, after they've filed, the employee doesn't need to file again. But then it brought a lot of problems because employers realized, so the employee is not even going to check and see what it was that we filed and we paid. So it created a loophole where employers were declaring the wrong amounts for it to work in their advantage so that they pay less taxes.
That's true.
And what they were declaring there is not what was in the pay slips of the employees. So it was decided then that this is final. The employee has to confirm what is on the P9 form, which is a summary of what they've earned the entire year, that it agrees with what they received, so that it's end to end assured. So that's why the employee still has to, up to today, go back and do your old filing so that you see that what your employer deducted you is the correct thing. They're not using you to benefit themselves.
I see that.
Yeah.
I see that.
Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did, actually. Okay. Yeah, and also given me a new perspective of thinking about it. I didn't know that happened.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have for filing returns, honestly? Because I think this is a crucial moment. The system hangs sometimes, especially where people are now rushing last minute.
Yes.
So,
I remember
for businesses.
Yes, sorry for interrupting you. I remember this time last year, around 30th of June, is normally a terrible time for all accountants.
Right.
And you remember this challenge people were doing for, I'm an accountant, of course I don't do this and that. Or I'm a woman, of course I don't. So there's this one for accountants where they were saying, I'm an accountant, of course I will not pick your call on the last week of 30th of June. Because it's so stressful.
It's stressful for everyone.
The best, when you're approaching filing your returns, do it early. Everyone says do it early, but no one does it early. And that's why all of you clamp up the system.
Last minuters,
clamp up the system, and they earn their own penalties as they deserve. Because right now it's May. You have the entire month of May. And the entire, let me just say half of June. By the first half of June, if you've not filed your returns, you're just not someone who understands what you are doing with your taxes. Auko serious. Because that system hangs.
Yeah.
If there's any problems, you will find them out too late. So you won't even have access to someone who can help you.
That's true.
So when it comes to filing your returns, do it early, number one, so that you can ensure the accuracy and avoid those penalties. The second thing, you also need to know which taxes you're supposed to be filing. If you're registered under TOT, then you know that yours is monthly. If it's employment income for the individual, then yours is just to confirm and see that there's nothing payable.
Okay.
If you're employed and you earn income on the side, you still declare those incomes, especially if you have a withholding tax certificate. Now is the time to make sure that you've gathered all your withholding tax certificate data and you're filing the correct amounts so that whatever is payable in the end, you ascertain its accuracy before you start scrambling towards the end. And then now we have the income tax company. Small businesses in Kenya, a good number, have not been filing returns for their businesses. But as they are slowly realizing that the systems of KRA are being developed every day, and it's coming to the point whereby everything is trailable and you'll soon get a letter from KRA. So everyone is trying to be as compliant as they possibly can.
Yeah.
And for that, if you've not yet compiled your sales, your expenses, which then determines what taxes you're supposed to pay, that activity, you cannot do it in one day. So this thing, start early na msiseme sikuwa.
Msiseme amjui. Right.
Yes.
I love it. As we come almost towards the end of this conversation, we've covered quite a lot, but this I know is so common. Everyone is trying to understand. There is tax avoiding and tax evasion. So tax evasion is the illegal one, while avoiding is the legal one.
Yes.
So how do we avoid all these taxes? I mean, tumetoka pale kulipa SHA, the two pensions, pay, and then we're coming here, VAT is waiting for us, and then I'm importing something, excise and an ingot. So how do we avoid this many taxes?
Okay. So first of all, as an employee, tax avoidance and you, 2 WhatsApp groups.
Tupatani.
Wewe ulisha. If you're an employee, your money is taxed before it arrives in your pocket. So you can't evade, you can't avoid. You just swipe. Bye. Now let's talk about people who are in business.
Yes.
For people who are in business, there are those allowances within the law that enable you to reduce your taxes. Number one, you can deduct every cost and every expense associated with your business activity.
Okay.
Even that airtime that you use to talk to your customers, so long as you have proof that you bought it. Even that fare or Ubers that you do for the deliveries and whatnot. Even the Wi-Fi that you use in your premise, all those are deductible business expenses. And if you pay for Wi-Fi for 5,000 every month, Over a year, how much is that? That is 60,000 shillings.
Yeah.
It's not small money that you want to say, I didn't pay it.
Right.
So record keeping is very important. That's your first tool in you avoiding taxes.
Okay.
The second thing is gaining knowledge. Like, for example, if you have a registered commercial vehicle that you use for your business, there is something we call wear and tear allowance. Wear and tear allowance is a certain percentage of your commercial vehicle. For example, 25% of the cost of that vehicle that is allowable to reduce your taxes. So let's say you bought this vehicle at 2 million. And then your taxes have come to, you're supposed to pay 500,000. So this 2 million is the cost of your vehicle, and you're allowed 25% wear and tear allowance.
Oh, okay.
What's 25% of 2 million? 500,000, right? So that in itself has completely wiped out your entire taxes.
Oh, fantastic.
And you've avoided paying taxes. But
Right.
how will you know if you're not looking for this knowledge and seeking out experts so that they can guide you?
Exactly. Yes.
So there are very many loopholes in the law, also industry specific.
Exactly.
And I mean, someone was asking me this and I was telling them that on a lazy Sunday afternoon, read your income tax
Instead of
act,
scrolling
read your
on
VAT
TikTok. Okay, you
act.
can scroll
It's
to
boring.
Yeah, and get to learn something.
And get to learn
right.
something, especially if you're a serious business person, you're building a legacy business. Just acquaint yourself with some knowledge.
That's true.
Yes.
Yeah, knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power, and the application of knowledge is even greater power. Yes.
Yeah, and I love that you say that because you do a lot of content around just sensitization.
Yes.
And trying to give people knowledge in the simplest form possible.
Yes.
So if you're not following Fiona on TikTok, is it just TikTok?
TikTok is my biggest platform, but I recently also started writing newsletters on LinkedIn.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes, so those two platforms for now. Yes, Fiona Witaba.
Fiona Witaba.
CPA Fiona Witaba.
Or CPA. Hi.
It's not that deep.
It's deep because me siku maliza, so I can't call myself a CPA. But
It is deep, isn't
yeah,
it?
it is
Yeah, it's
deep.
deep.
Yeah. So how do you get to balance all these things with
Yeah.
your personal life? I mean, where do you get the time to read into like the depths of all this? Be an accountant, be an advisor, be a change maker, and still have
In
time
it.
for your family.
Yes. Decisions, Joy.
Yes. Good answer.
Decisions. You just decide that for me, I'll spend just an hour a day, every day, either learning or an hour a day, networking, being in circles that grow you. And then you become intentional. Intentional.
Yes.
And of course, there are days when you snooze.
Yeah.
You say, today I'm not in the
And that's
mood.
okay.
And that's okay because you're recharging. Even your phone, sometimes the battery dies down and you
Yes.
recharge.
Exactly.
But I think for me, the intentionality and the decision making, it really builds into this. But the major part of this thing, it's God.
Me God.
100% Jesus Christ.
Right.
100%. Yeah. You have to pray.
grace.
You have to pray every day.
You have to.
It's not easy.
Yeah.
As a woman,
Especially as a woman.
it's not easy. You're balancing motherhood, you're balancing a business, building a business, dealing with clients.
Do you ever feel like you're not showing up enough for your children?
100 all the time.
Yeah.
Every day. Even right now.
Yes.
There's a part of your mind that's like,
Yeah.
a sweater.
Aki, amekula lunch.
Na ametolewa nini ile kalimwagika hapa change. You think of all these things.
I love it.
But at the end of the day, it's God.
Yeah.
It's cliche, but it's fact.
It's fact.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a really good way to just, come to this. Is your husband as well an accountant? Do you guys share notes?
No. He's a
What does he
scientist.
think about? When had a scientist?
No, you if you met him, you'd be surprised.
Yeah.
It's not what you think.
Well,
Do we share notes? You have to be with someone who builds you,
right.
is what I think. And building doesn't have to be in the scheme, the way you look at things.
Right.
So especially, I think, for me, I normally say unlike poles attract. If someone is very different from you, they'll give you a new perspective that you don't have.
Exactly.
And that for me is more valuable than what I do have. Because what I do have, I can get from me and people who I network with who are like me. But then what about what I don't have?
Exactly.
Yes.
That's where you get it.
Yes.
Right. I love that. And that's good financial and relationship advice.
And I'm not a guru, for the record.
Yeah, you're sharing your life. But
Yeah.
I think, where can guys find you actually? In case someone wants to get to you.
So if you want to get to me, you can call me or WhatsApp me on 0117 333 818.
Okay.
Or you can DM me on my socials. TikTok, Fiona Witaba, CPA Fiona Witaba, LinkedIn, CPA Fiona Witaba. Yes.
And guys, please don't use those platforms for hi, hello.
Yeah.
You're married. Okay.
Don't be like, hey. It's like that reggae song for hey. Don't be there saying hey to yourself all the time. Hey. After 2 days, hey.
Know what you want.
No,
and
just
go and
not.
ask the
Let's
question.
normalize
Yes.
striking the nail on the head.
At the
Hi,
first
my name is
point.
Fiona. Hi, Joy Mido. My name is Fiona Witaba. I've been seeing your podcasts and I'd like to be one of your guests. What I have to offer is 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you think we can discuss this further?
Yes.
That's
exactly.
the first message. Crisp, clear.
Period.
What do you
Straight
think?
to the point.
Yeah.
I like that as well because me, if you hit me with a high, siko,
Nivo.
it's a couple. Anyway.
Sing reggae.
Yeah, reggae. Yeah, I love it, Fiona. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I don't know, we may need a part 2 for this because we have so much to cover and you've executed it very excellently. I really hope that people who are watching got a lot out of this. I know they did. I know I did. So thank you so much for your brilliance.
My pleasure.
Yeah, bringing it to the podcast.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much. Right, if you've come this far, thank you for watching. Hope you got a lot out of it. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And we will see you at the next episode.